Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Richest Men in Town podcast. I'm Mike Freeman, and along with my good friend and co-host Tyler Goold, we're excited to welcome you to our little podcast project. Tyler and I are just a couple of middle-aged husbands and dads driven to live our best lives. We want to be better every day, so here we'll be sitting down with great people. Not famous people, but great people that we admire, to learn their secret to living the rich life. Probably not the rich life you're thinking of. Our guests come in humbled and surprised at the invitation and hopefully leave feeling proud and grateful, realizing just how good they really have it. So pull up a chair, stay a while, and raise a glass with us as we toast our guests to the richest men in town.
Freeman.
Goold, is this like PE class? Or just going last name?
Just last name today.
Okay.
Let's just go last names.
What's up, Goold?
We just spent some time with John Taylor. Now, John Taylor is, you've known him for a while professionally. Tonight was probably the first night that you got to dive a little bit deeper on Taylor. I didn't know John Taylor before tonight, and it was a lot of fun and a lot of great lessons taught. What stood out about John Taylor, and why did you think he was a good candidate to be on the show, The Richest Men in Town?
Well, come on. First of all, tell me you're not a better man for those 2 hours.
I've got so many notes and so many challenges. It's unbelievable.
So you know you're watching the fruit of somebody's life, and you understand that professionally I'm not going to be able to get the personal insight, but I can see the value and I can see the character of the person in the way that he treated me, working together, in the way that he treated kids. And you just know there's depth there, right? And you know, honestly, because you find yourself trying to maybe emulate him and be like him. And in the interactions that you have with him, you walk away feeling like you want to be a better person. And so when we have a podcast, and that's the whole purpose of the podcast, is to kind of stoke the fire to be better, his name obviously comes up on a pretty short list.
Yeah, I mean, you talked earlier about, you can just tell with people, right? You can just tell. And we talked to John last night for 15 minutes on a pre-show call, and we hung up with John, and I thought, man, this guy is something special. And he delivered tonight. He proved that tonight. I mean, some of the stories he talks about and the experiences that he shares tonight are things that I want to do with my own personal self. I want to improve myself in those ways.
There's going to be some times, and I don't know if we've had moments like it, there's going to be some times on this podcast listening to John Taylor where our listeners are going to look for that 30-second back button.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, what did he just say?
Right.
That's true, right? I
100%,
I think
man.
we were like, hold on. Let me process the story that you just told, right?
Yeah.
And his upbringing,
Yeah.
like the gift of the childhood he was given, and how he pays that back somewhat.
Yeah.
Later on, as his parents are aging, he has an opportunity to pay that back a little bit in a special way. And he's a good son, he's a good husband, he's a good friend. Props to Stephen Mitchell, because we were able to get his contact information because he's good friends with our former guest and good friend Stephen Mitchell. So he's a quiet guy. He's a quiet guy, but man, God knows him. He knows that he's loved, and he's trying.
Yeah.
You can't ask for more.
Yeah. I mean, all of that is just evident with everything that John said tonight. And it was powerful. It was fun. And
it was fun.
It was fun. Yeah. And it becomes cliche after a while. I know when we say we want to have him back, but 2 hours, maybe some listeners are going 2 hours, boys, 2 hours. Come on now. I'm saying
what though? They won't after they listen to John, they'll be like, where did that go?
Yeah.
Right. I'm 2 hours down the freeway, and I don't want to hang up on John Taylor. We didn't want to hang up on John Taylor.
It was hard to say goodbye tonight. He was just a lot of fun and just as powerful as they come. I enjoyed.
But we had a moment, and that is where we know that this is working. You know, the show is patterned after that It's a Wonderful Life and George Bailey's character, where George goes through a journey where he realizes the goodness of his life. And I love how John wraps this up, you know, talking about just how good he's got it.
Yeah.
And we can see it in his eyes that he realizes how blessed he is. And we know we've done our job.
Yeah.
On to the next.
On to the next. You know, John Taylor it was fun. I hope everyone listens and enjoys the words and the lessons that John teaches tonight, because I really felt like this was some serious teaching that was happening through 2 hours of time. But you know, Mike, it's Christmas. It's the Christmas season. John Taylor's episode, the timing is perfect because it inspired me to want to continue to be better and to be kinder and to reach out to people. He talks about his neighbor Ed, and I love that moment.
Yeah.
Right? Love that.
Yeah, he just talks about how powerful we can be when we are uncomfortable.
Yeah. It's unreal. So let's keep it up. Let's keep pushing forward. Let's keep that goal to keep reaching out to people, lifting people up. Let's keep that idea of being kind in our minds. It's the Christmas season. Let's go out of our way to bring people to a better place. And hopefully, in listening to John Taylor tonight, our listeners are inspired to be the best they can be, because John Taylor painted that picture as clear as can be. So
this is one that folks listening to this need to share this.
Absolutely. Sit back, take notes, enjoy John Taylor on The Richest Men in Town.
There's things to talk about, Tyler. Where do you want to go tonight? We got John Taylor coming on. John Taylor's a friend of mine.
Yeah.
We work together at Mountain View Middle School.
Okay. Nice.
I'm excited to get John on. It's been a little bit, you know, and you go to track down a guy, and it turns out he's living up in Bandon, Oregon.
Yeah. I've never been to Bandon, but it sounds like a beautiful place.
We're about to have some listeners maybe in Bandon, some John Taylor followers maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe we're already in Bandon. We're kind of worldwide. Like, let's be real.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Bandon is a beautiful place. So I've seen from the photos that I find online. I've never been to Bandon, but it looks like a place that I want to be. That's what it looks like.
You got a caddy. When you play Bandon Dunes, you have to caddy.
Interesting. How many places are like that are left?
Yeah, not many.
It's a throwback. Our sandwiches.
And you gotta bring
$1.
You gotta bring like 50 balls.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hey, let me divert for a second, okay?
Yeah.
Because I played a golf course here in San Diego, and I go to check in.
This episode is brought to you by
Mount Woodson Golf Course.
Mount Woodson Golf Course.
So I roll up to Mount Woods. I've heard it's a tough course. I walk in, and the lady says, do you have a lot of balls with you today? Like
whoa. Sizing you up
That's
there.
exactly what I said. I go, hey, there's one of two things are happening here. Either this is a very difficult course, or you have seen me play the game of golf. one of two things. And turns out it was a difficult course.
That sounds like people run out of balls.
Yeah, I would imagine they do. It's a lot of like over canyons, that kind of stuff. But anyway, this episode brought to you by Mount Woodson Golf Course.
And Titleist.
And Titleist, yes. But yeah, so back to John Taylor up in Bandon, man.
No. Yeah, John Taylor's gonna bring it tonight. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to getting. You know, it's interesting because we know each other professionally.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a great opportunity. Like, I knew he was a great guy, great caliber guy, and now we're going to get a little bit into the person behind that. Mr. Taylor.
I chatted with him.
Hey, if he drops a Mr. Freeman tonight, we're going to have to regulate. Right?
I'm just going to step back and let you guys go at it if that goes down. I'm just going to let you guys
drops
put
at
it
Mr. Freeman like I'm still his principal or something. We're going to have to regulate that.
That would be interesting. But let me say this. I got a chance to meet John yesterday, and I'm super excited. We talked for a few minutes on our pre-show call. It was a ton of fun, and look, I don't know him at all, but there's a lot of depth there. I can tell you that. But can I tell you some things that are on my mind?
Oh, that's my favorite segment.
Okay.
On the mind of Tyler Goold.
On the mind, yeah. Right. Well, I've been thinking about so I've got it's interesting, right? I've got 4 children. My oldest is 20 years old, and she is in college right now. She's a college student. I have an 18-year-old who's serving a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I have a 16-year-old and an 11-year-old. And, you know, when I was a kid, there wasn't a lot of spare cash in the house. So you needed something.
Relate.
Yeah, right. You needed something. The answer typically was, what are you going to do to get it? And there was usually some form of manual labor involved, whether it was at your house or someone else's or whatever, to kind of earn some cash, right? When I started having children, I remember thinking, like, my kids want something, I'm getting it. No questions asked. Then I started having those little bodies.
Dangerous.
Yeah. That was my thought. And then I started having the bodies running around the house, and I'm like, no. These kids got to work, man. Like, I'm putting too much time and effort to be dropping 20s at every turn, man. So, but in all reality, I've been thinking about that idea of, you know, because I do have some kids that are on their own, and that idea of the struggle, you know, of having to go through it.
Man, where do you want to go with that? Because, like, I just watched one of Richest Men in Town's favorite movies, not It's a Wonderful Life. Of course, that is right there, number 1 spot.
Yeah.
But Cinderella Man, Tyler Gould, Russell Crowe, Renee Zellweger, 2005 classic film about exactly what you're talking about. Struggle.
Yeah. I love the movie, man. There's so many good lessons, for me anyway, that I take away from that movie. And what's jumping out at you after watching it?
Oh, you kidding me, dude? When he does, like, whatever it takes for me, I love that saying. I've actually painted that on murals at schools where I've worked, right?
Yeah.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah.
But when he loses his kids after giving his son his word.
Yeah. Dude, like that. I shed tears every time, man.
I can't even talk about it. And he's $18 short.
Yeah.
And he goes to the garden.
Hat in hand. Yeah.
Former contender for the heavyweight championship of the world. Goes with his hat in his hand and begs.
Yeah. It's that scene's tough, but it does make you think, you know. When you watch it, I always have this feeling like, you know, we had this conversation with Doug McMullen, right? And we talked about his work with the homeless community and just being able to see people for who they are. You know, sometimes I tell myself when I see people in that situation, like, what missteps would I take to be in that spot? And maybe it's not as many as I think it would take. You know what I mean? The other day it was Saturday. I was driving around with my kids and my wife, and we were running some errands, and I pulled into the shopping center, and a mom was sitting at the corner, you know, well-dressed. She looked like, you know, your average mom, right? With her 2 kids sitting next to her. and a sign that said, I need some help. I've fallen on some hard times. And honestly, I read that and I got emotional just reading that. And I thought, man, like how close, what would it take to be put in that situation? And what does it take to get yourself to a spot where you will come hat in hand and say, hey, I think, Mike, sometimes we look at that, I've been guilty of this where I say, come on, man, what'd you do? What'd you do? But I think that maybe there's even more power in the person that has to swallow everything, hold hands with two kids, walk down to the street corner, sit down and say, hey, give me some help.
That's it. That's all I got. Right.
Yeah.
Like if you're there, you have used every avenue.
Yeah.
You've tried everything. And in that Russell Crowe scene, he's up against it.
Yeah. Right.
And he doesn't have any other answer. And I was watching it with my kids, and I actually told my kids, there's nothing I wouldn't do.
Yeah.
There's nothing
absolutely.
I wouldn't do for you guys. And then I think one of them piped off like, well, would you break the law? And I, without even thinking, said yes. And Kelly reminded me that I need to love God and keep his commandments, right? The first commandment is love God. The second is like unto it. So I would not break the law, but like, man,
yeah,
that urge to do whatever it took. And,
right.
and you're right. Like it's almost like Jean Valjean's character in Les Mis. Stole a loaf of bread.
Yeah.
They were hungry. This is Great Depression, right? This movie is set in the Great Depression. Man, when that scene, when he comes home and his son had stolen some salami from the deli.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're just hungry. Like I'm even speaking I'm getting an Irish accent just talking about this.
But
I'm gonna let John Taylor in.
Yeah.
Maybe he's seen this movie. Maybe he can add in. We're just gonna let him in and catch him up and see what he's got. All right.
Let's let him in the room, man.
John Taylor, welcome to the Richest Men in Town podcast. How are you, brother?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you with us?
There you are.
There you are.
How are you
guys
tonight?
Doing great. How you guys doing?
Fantastic.
Well, greetings from California.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Not too far from me. Only about 5 hours.
Yeah, but California and Oregon these days probably feel very
light
different.
years apart. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We probably got a lot of people heading your way.
Yeah, they are. It's filling up here. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, hey, John. So I'm excited to have you on. I'm gonna let Tyler in on a little bit of why I love you and why we're so grateful that you are joining our show tonight. But first, we're having a discussion about some of the life lessons that struggle teaches us, and then struggle in the movie Russell Crowe's classic Cinderella Man. Okay, so we're just kind of going over some of the scenes that had an impact. When I say Cinderella Man to you, is there a scene that pops into your head? Is there a lesson?
Yeah, that was an easy one, Mike. I love that movie. I watch it every year. I need to watch it again, but the one that stands out for me is that life lesson where the son steals food.
Oh,
yeah.
And the father, marches the kid right back to the place where the son stole the food, and they're hungry, right? Obviously, kid. That's a powerful one for me. In that,
and everybody's hungry, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That scene chokes me up every time I watch that. I just feel like that conversation that he has about, hey, this is not what we do, and I'm here. I'm not going to leave you, and right, we're in this together. I think it's a powerful lesson in that scene. One of my favorites too, John. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
There's so many, though. There's so, like, how about the adversity? He breaks his right hand.
Right.
He's working on the dock, and he's hiding the fact that he's broken his right hand, and he's actually strengthening his left hand.
Right.
And in the process of strengthening his left hand, he's becoming a better boxer.
Absolutely. Isn't that? I know. He just turned a negative into a positive.
Yeah, right.
It's incredible.
Yeah, my daughter just gave a TED Talk as part of a class assignment, and her message in her TED Talk was how in the middle of Redding's car fire, she showed some pictures of some amazing sunsets that happened, and she used the message that smoke makes beautiful sunsets.
Oh yeah,
and then applied it to the trials and adversity, and I wouldn't say afflictions. Grace Freeman hasn't gone through afflictions, but the idea of these trials actually making your life beautiful.
Yes, absolutely.
That's a wonderful thought.
It really is. It's a great movie, and there's just so many lessons in that movie that, like I said, I need to watch that again.
Well, yeah, well, let me ask you this, John, real quick. There's a scene in the movie, I don't know if you remember, where his wife has to send the kids to live with her sister.
That's right.
And he needs to go get them back, and so he has to turn the electricity on, and he's a few dollars short, and he goes to the club where the riders are at, and he with hat in hand, and he kind of pleads his case, and he asks for some help.
Yeah.
And I look at that scene, and I think, man, there's a lot of pride to be swallowed, probably walking in there. But I also think there's a lot of power to be found in asking for help. And maybe that power is found when we let go of the pride, right? I don't know, but I'd love to get your take on that.
No, absolutely. I mean, just that tidbit right there, just, draws so many images of that. You take the pride and you put it aside, and in the last few years, my life has just changed on a hinge from where I was to where I am now. And it's that hinge moment of, this is out of my comfort zone. This is way above me. I'm going to have to ask help here. And so I found myself really not just humbled, but really at a point where I had to really dig deep and let that go and say, okay, you know what? I don't know a lot about this particular thing, but I'm not going to be afraid to ask. And before you know it, you get better at doing that. And my gosh, iron sharpens iron, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that lesson is just so powerful. Just goes out.
It's like Simon Sinek said, Tyler, I think we've even talked about this in prior episodes, is just, we don't gain trust by helping people. We gain trust by asking for help.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You think about the time someone has let you in on their trial. Trust is in that room, man. Like you can feel it.
Right.
Like I'm coming to you and I am lowering my guard, and I'm actually going to let you in on the fact that I'm a mess.
Right. And I kind of think, and there's this thing that we do, right, as just human beings, because there's always an element of pride or ego attached to what we're doing. So when someone says, hey, how are you doing, Mike or John? And we, our tendency is to say, I'm fine. Right. Mm-hmm. Thanks for asking. And then we split, and we're not doing ourselves any favors, right, by not letting someone help us out. And we're not doing them any favors by giving them the opportunity to serve. And I think there's a disconnect there. And look, I'm not good at it. I'm not good at it. Right. People ask me how I'm doing. I could be in the worst way, and I'm probably going to tell you I'm doing fine. And I need to be better about it. But I think that the times where people have showed me that their willingness to open up, it's really changed how I view.
Yeah, you talk about the power of modeling, right? When you're able to see somebody cast aside that ego.
Yeah.
And how that ego, how powerful that is. You said as humans, it's there. It's something we've got to overcome. But when you see somebody do it, man, it's like, I want to be that guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And so many years of my life was, that saying, no man is an island unto himself, and you get into that, I'm doing okay. I'm fine here. I'll figure it out. That one, I'll figure it out.
I don't want to burden anybody else with what I got going on. So I got this. Right.
That's right.
And
that's right.
Yeah. No man is an island unto himself. We're all part of the main.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Hey, before we jump off and finish with Cinderella Man, I want to ask this. There's a scene where I love this scene where he's been decommissioned. He made his living as a boxer.
Okay.
And because of his poor quality, because he had a broken hand, they decommissioned him as a boxer.
Right.
And he's sitting at the table with his wife. And remember, like he's not eating. He's letting his kids eat. And there's not a lot anyways.
Yeah.
He tells his wife this, and she bows her head to pray. And he doesn't. And she says, will you join me in prayer? And he says, I'm all prayed out.
I'm all prayed out. Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
So without getting too,
Wow.
I mean, that might be too vulnerable, right? But I'm with guys here that I admire. Can you relate to that?
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There's moments where I can relate to it on a couple levels. One, the faith of the wife.
For sure.
There's been so many times where I am low.
Yeah.
And she is not. And I'm looking at her like, what kind of gift is this?
Isn't that the beauty of the partnership, though? Right?
Yes,
there's going to be times where
you say partnership. You say part. I don't know if the shoe's ever been on the other foot.
Yeah, well, you're probably right, but I think that's the beauty of it, though, right? Is that you have someone that's willing to say, "No, you're not prayed out." Right? We can do this,
Right. Yeah, absolutely. No, that's why God joined my wife and I together. And it's that help meet my need. I'm not prayed out. I need prayer right now.
Yeah.
And my wife is so tuned into that I don't even have to ask. She's like, you need prayer. I can see it. I can see that. And so, you can't fool wives.
I can see it. Even with that COVID mask on, I can see it. You need to pray.
That's right, man.
It kind of reminds me, I don't know who said it, but right. It's those moments when you don't feel like praying. That's when you need it more than ever.
Yeah.
Right. Or the idea of you get on your knees and you pray and you don't get up till you feel different.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, that's a tough spot to be in, man. I'm with you, John. When Mike says, "Can you relate?" I say, "Yeah, absolutely." I've been in that. I feel like I've been there before. Where you think the world's spiraling and nothing's gonna pull me out of this,
Right.
But man, what an important. You talk about your wife reminding you, and I could tell you over and over again of my wife reminding me, and it's just, we don't want to lose that, we don't want to lose that. Man, that's a great thing.
That's good stuff. That is great.
Yeah. And we just want to make sure we never, ever, ever take that for granted. Right.
Amen.
Yeah. She's always going to be there. She's always going to be there. Well, if you don't take care of that and nurture that,
that's good.
She might upgrade.
Yeah, exactly.
Tyler, can I talk to you about my friend John?
Yeah, please. I'm excited to get to know John. Now you've known John for a little while in a professional setting. What jumped to mind when you thought, man, John is perfect for the richest man in town?
So you and I have a list.
Yeah.
Right. So to let our listeners in on it a little bit, kind of pull the curtain back. We have a list that we've been, it's like a hit list.
Right.
You come up with a podcast, you call it Richest Men in Town, and you come up with a list.
Yeah.
And you come up with the list of the guys that embody what we're trying to do, what we're trying to be. It's not a hard list to come up with because it's really like, hey, Tyler, who's better than us?
Right. Like, that list is long, man. That's a long list.
You got that. It's like that Rolodex you talk about.
Yeah, that's right.
Like,
yeah.
Hey, all right. There's a lot of folks. But I met John professionally. John and I taught John and I worked at a middle school here in town, and you just know.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't go to church with John. I didn't have scripture studies with John. I didn't know John outside of that school, but I knew him.
Yeah.
And I knew the caliber of guy he was. And it's actually, Tyler, this is like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, but take out Kevin and put in Stephen Mitchell. Right?
Yeah, he's in there somewhere, man.
I've heard of that guy.
He's in there. Tyler Goold has never met Stephen in person, John, but we love Stephen. I love Stephen Mitchell. Stephen is a good friend of John Taylor. So I reached out to Stephen, just saying, hey, I'm super excited about John coming on the show. I know John, being a humble guy, that's the challenge, right? When we're talking richest men in town, usually they're humble and they don't call us saying, hey, I heard you got a podcast, I want to be on it. Right. So I reach out to John, and then John puts this as a matter of prayer, right? To decide, do I do this? Don't I? And I reached out to Stephen. I said, I know John professionally. I'm excited about getting the opportunity to meet him through the podcast. But you talk to me, Stephen Mitchell. What kind of guy is John Taylor? Oh man, John. That guy, he used words like open, transparent, loyal, faithful, right? He told me a story. I don't know if I'm allowed to tell you this.
Sure you are. Go for it.
He told me the story where you guys went up to the beach, to the coast.
Yeah. That's when we first met him. We only knew him for like 2 weeks.
You want to tell Tyler what happened?
I don't know the story.
No, we moved into their neighborhood, and I think within a day we're walking by their house. Their kids are out, Olivia and Taylor, outside doing a play. You know, I'm like, wow.
He's a drama teacher. Drama teachers have kids that do plays in the driveway.
Right, exactly. And it was just a connection that quickly, and they were going on vacation. I think it was that weekend. They're like, yeah, we're going to the coast. You guys want to go? And we're like, what? Do we want to go? Absolutely. And we didn't think twice of that. Wow. So here we are, you know, we don't even know each other, and we go out on this hike, and all of us started talking, and we were talking for hours. We ended up getting lost. We didn't know where we were.
Legit, Tyler? Lost in the woods.
Lost in the woods. And
it's like a Robert Frost poem.
No, and we talk about the story still. And Stephen always brings up the fact that my first reaction is, well, I'll take off. I'll just go run and find a way out for us, and then I'll run back, right? So I take off. Stupidest thing, right? I take off. I'm flying through the woods. I end up getting lost.
Oh, no.
So anyway, I finally find the group, and we end up walking for hours. Kids are on our shoulders. I mean, they're young, and it was still a calm and a peace, though. We still knew that, we'll find our way out. Then we run into these two lovely people that I think they were from Ireland, and it was getting late at night. It was 4:00 and it's going to be dark soon. And so they had a map, and they got us out of there. But wow. that's how we
I love that story.
There's so many crazy things about that story, John. I mean,
but hey, Stephen, can you think of a cooler guy to be lost in the woods with than Stephen Mitchell?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, the stories. That's why you get lost, because you get lost in conversation, man. I mean, that's how Stephen is. It's great.
Oh, and Julie too, and my wife and Julie, their relationship, it's a blessing. They're just such a blessing to us. We just love them so much.
Awesome. And I think that's the fraternity that we're that we're working here.
Well, let me ask you this, John. When Mike Freeman reaches out to you and says, hey, I've got this podcast that I've been working on, and I think that you're perfect for it because it's called Richest Men in Town. What goes through your mind?
A lot. At first, and I told Mike, I said, I didn't want to do it, but I didn't tell him that. I prayed about it. It didn't take long. I got my answer, and then I just started breaking things down, and you guys sent me some things to think about, and I don't take those lightly. Those are serious things to me, and so I dug deep into a lot of that stuff and shared a lot of it with my wife as well. And I'm just honored to be on the show. And I hope my stories, my words, I hope they bless someone and bless others with that. And so I just admire what you guys are doing. The theme, everything around it is just absolutely wonderful. And, you guys are just amazing what you're doing.
We're excited that you're here, man. And I think that, like I said, it's interesting because I've had this experience over and over again on the podcast where Mike will introduce me to someone, or I'll introduce someone to Mike, and we've never met before. And we spent 15 minutes together yesterday on a pre-show call. And after the call, I said, this guy has it, man. And I just feel it. And I'm excited to hear your words tonight and let everyone else hear who you are and what makes you.
Tyler, I don't know if it was weird for you at all, but this Thanksgiving, I was grateful for people that I've never met in person.
Yeah.
Thinking about the experiences that I've had on this podcast,
thinking
about the lessons and the way they taught me, I'm giving gratitude to God for those people that I've never even met.
Yeah.
That's wild.
It's amazing. And I love it. I was talking to someone the other day. In fact, I had a chance to speak to a group of people, and I found myself quoting people that I don't really know, but that I've just talked to on the podcast that have taught me things that I've taken ownership of, because I know that those things that they've said changed me. And so I feel like this obligation to share it with everyone else, right?
Absolutely.
So it's,
pay it forward, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So John, we want to honor you. We want to honor the people in your life. We want to honor the choices and the journey that you've been through and that you're on now, right? No one is done. We're not done. And so the idea is that we start at the beginning a little bit. Mm-hmm. Could you paint a picture of what childhood looked like for John Taylor? Where did you grow up? Talk to us about your parents and their influence on you.
Sure. I grew up in Southern California, brother to three sisters. Two of them are older than I am. One is younger. I had two absolutely amazing parents who are now not with us, and I miss them, greatly. My childhood growing up in my neighborhood.
Hey, really quick, John.
Yeah.
How long have they been gone?
My mom passed away. It's been, last week, actually. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It was Thanksgiving weekend 3 years ago.
Okay.
So, three years ago. Dad, about 12 years now.
Okay.
Yeah. But
I use the word loosely, gone, because we've had guests here say they're still around.
Yeah. Right. Absolutely. Aren't they? But no, my neighborhood, my child, growing up, there were so many kids. I mean, you're talking after the baby boom. So everyone had 4 to 6 to 8 kids. So the neighborhood was filled with so many, of my friends that I still connect with today. I've known them for 45, 50 years,
I have like Sandlot in my head.
Yeah. No, it's bigger than that. The team was even bigger, Mike. And my friends' siblings were friends with my older sisters. And so the neighborhood connection back then was absolutely amazing. The neighbors knew you. If you messed up, they would discipline you. Your parents didn't have to, right? It was that type of thing where they kept you in check.
We can go an hour right there, John. I think that is a tremendous difference today.
Yeah.
Right? The idea of that village and that community and neighbors correcting other people's kids.
Yeah.
Right.
That's gone.
It's gone. It doesn't happen. I know. You get sued.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, our house was the place to be during the holidays. My dad loved Christmas. And so all the neighbors would just come over to our house for, we'd have our big dinner, and then they would just flood over there during Christmas. So it's just phenomenal memories growing up. Just absolutely wonderful. Baseball was huge. In the streets, Frisbee. We had 3 channels, so we're outside playing all the time.
For real, yeah.
So, building forts.
And the moms and dads had to like call their kids in from outside.
Yeah, absolutely.
Come on, Tyler.
Yeah,
Take me back. Take me back.
That's it. One call, and you all sat down at the dinner table. You prayed and you ate, and that was in my house. That was. There was no TV on. It was dinner time and conversation. And if you had nothing important to say, you don't talk.
That's right.
And of course, I had 3 sisters, Italian, so they were just, going, and I'm the only son, so I was just eating. I was eating all their food as they were talking, so I had it made.
What did your parents do?
Yeah, so my dad was incredible. My dad was an engineer at Hughes Aircraft. He worked on the missile defense system, the guided missile systems for F-15s, F-16 Tomcats. Yeah, top secret government stuff. Didn't know really what Dad did, and he really couldn't tell me. Just knew the basics. But he was a great leader. He advanced to roof supervisor. Met Ronald Reagan. A big deal. And he was a quiet man, but a giant in strength and leadership, humble man, brilliant.
Okay, so hold on.
Brilliant.
Quiet, humble, but when he meets Ronald Reagan, he probably talked about that at the dinner table, right?
He did.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Not the president today.
That was his president right there. And it was a great moment for him, but he taught me how to throw a baseball, and which really just ignited my baseball life, because of him, and taught me how to pitch, and
Dodger
just
fan?
A wonderful man.
Dodger fan?
Yeah, huge. Took me to Dodger game. Ron Say, Steve Garvey, Fernando Valenzuela, I think it was.
Valenzuela, man. Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't remember the rest of the players, but Dodger Stadium, baseball was the sport in our house. Absolutely. Yeah.
Man, it's tough to beat Vin Scully's voice, right?
Oh, yeah, right.
Tough to beat.
Tommy Lasorda. My mom was incredible. She was an incredible woman too. Dad worked swing shifts, so Dad worked nights, and so didn't see Dad a lot. But when we did see him, he was exhausted, but he always came to the baseball games, and he always really made that effort to be involved in our lives as much as he could, and sleeping during the day when we're at school, going to work at night. So Mom, she pretty much raised us, I would say. Wonderful woman, not a touchy-feely woman, but every strength about her was incredible. She was honest. I get my honesty from her. I mean, to the penny. If she was overcharged by a penny, she would go back to the store and give it back. That kind of honesty.
It's funny that you say that you get that from her, right? I love that, and I see it in my own kids. I tell Tyler all the time the strengths of the parents are magnified in the lives of children.
Absolutely.
Actually, weaknesses too.
and weaknesses. That's right. Very good point. Yeah. Absolutely. But no, I think of my mom as the caregiver. She was the caregiver of the family. Took care of her mom, her uncle, my dad, us kids, just sacrifice. And she was a brilliant woman. I mean, absolutely gifted, talented, brilliant, and was a stay-home mom taking care of the family, and could have done anything. And I would love to share a story if this isn't the right time.
No, please.
I can come back to that.
It's your time, brother.
To share just a little bit of a story about my mom's mind and how she worked is incredible. When she passed away, I was the person in charge of the family estate, and that's a hinge moment right there. I'll get back to you, but I had to really humble myself and go around LA and do all these investigations of where this is at, and see tax attorneys and CPAs and estate attorneys, and it was just overwhelming. And so I met this one guy, Paul. He was a tax attorney for Arnold Schwarzenegger. So I meet I set up this appointment. I hear he's this tax attorney for Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm like, how is my mom connected to this guy? And so I bring my wife, we're down in LA. I bring my wife to this office, and we walk in Paul's office. He's got papers to the ceiling. This guy was a Jewish fellow, a little Jewish fellow, just wiry as can be. And so he sat down for 2 hours, didn't charge me, and helped me fill out these affidavits that I needed to do. He loved my mom. He said my mom was one of the most brilliant people that he had ever met. She actually taught him, and this is a tax attorney. And those are his words. She challenged him, and I was just blown away by hearing that. And yeah, it's just unbelievable. The mind she had. And so I think of that. I think of, her frugalness of old appliances. They're 50, 60 years old. They're still working. They're leaking. And she's like, I'm not upgrading. They're still working. That type of mentality. I love that. I love that today. And so just a wonderful woman, and I miss her. And devoted Catholic, loved her church, and she could talk about anything, current events, sports, but she never watched sports, but she could tell you everything about sports.
Wow.
Just well read. Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
John, you talk about your mom's faith and her devotion to her church. You've mentioned in our pre-show call and tonight your reliance on prayer and on faith. When does faith become real for you and something that becomes active in your life?
At a particular moment, or now, or
yeah, when does it become? Is it watching mom and dad exercise that faith, and when does that become something that becomes important for you in your own life as you get out on your own? Sure,
that's a great question. Yeah, absolutely. The modeling of them going to church. We had to go to these classes after, we went to school during the day, but we'd go to catechism. They're called catechism classes at night. And so you go through that. And so,
like the whole family?
Yeah, my sisters, not my parents. It was just kind of a drop you off type thing at night. And so you go through that for 8 years, and I went through that with my sisters. And so that was all good. It built the foundation for my faith. Later, when I married my wife and we moved to Redding, we actually left the Catholic faith, and we went and moved away from it. And it wasn't, we were at a point where we wanted a little bit more. And so we visited a church in Redding, and my wife loved it. And I was still kind of in the, you kneel at this time, there's a homily for 15 minutes. You say your Our Father, and you're out of there.
Right.
So did it drop? It's always been there, the foundation, but it just became real, I think, when we were baptized in a church in Redding, and that's really when I think my wife and our faith just took off from there.
Yeah, you talk about that foundation laid by the faith of your mother and father, John. With them gone, and you've shared how you think about them often, how do you honor them today? Well, the first thing is, they trusted me, with the estate, and so as hard as it's been, and this is really a really hard area of my life, it's a blessing. It's one of those things where it hurts. It hurts because you don't know if you're doing things right, and you're on the line, and you have two older sisters that are wondering, why are you the one that's chosen? So you're battling that whole situation the whole time. So
I had to dig deep, and that honor of this is going to be done right. It's going to be done honestly. It's going to be done. I'm going to communicate to my sisters. I'm going to do the best job because my parents would expect that. And I think I did. I know I do think that I did a great job, because sometimes I have to confirm that with my wife, because you'll go a little ways and you'll go, am I doing this right? And yeah, you are, and you need that confirmation. Or I'll go see someone, I'll go see a tax lady and dump a bunch of stuff on her and go, is this right? No, you're doing it right. And so it's that, that honor of they entrusted me with their estate to make sure that everything gets to my siblings and I, and done honestly. And so I honor them that way tremendously. When I get into situations where it's just out of my comfort zone, I just draw in on that strength and God, especially my wife. So, but yeah, my parents are always with me. Dad's advice is deep down in there. If I'm doing a project, here's a piece of advice. When you're doing something, think about what that will be like in 5 years. So if you're putting in a lawn, put in sprinklers, right? If you're putting in sprinklers,
do it right. Cause
right.
Yeah.
Well, you put in an extra pipe here because this could bust, he was always thinking that way ahead. And so it's those things that you honor your parents, those memories and just going back and looking at pictures and, those are good things to remind yourself of, I need to honor my parents, with the little things too.
So where you stand right now in your life as you're looking, because the questions that we do send do cause that reflection, right? Cause people to kind of think about their journey. On the subject of honoring, is there anyone else that you would love to honor right now with this time on our program?
Oh, it has to be my wife. I mean, my strong tower.
Smart man.
No, what is my saying is, God is my counselor. My wife is my earthly therapist, right? But this woman is an angel. It's a blessing that the Lord gave me. How we met to where we're at today, the challenges, but she's my best friend. We do everything together. Here's a little, it's a little bit hard to talk about. And I asked her if I could talk about it. We weren't able to have children, and we went through the fertility stuff, and it was harrowing. It was long, it was harrowing. It was hard. It was challenging. And then we got to a certain point in our life where family members were getting ill, and then we started taking care of it. And we started thinking, well, maybe that's not the role we play. And the Lord just kind of saying, okay, you need to take care of your family. And so that's been just a blessing in itself right there.
So could you talk, so how long was that struggle? And then what did it feel like when you came to that conclusion? When you came to that answer, that decision of like, you know what, this isn't our direction, or God's plan for us is taking us a different direction. But how long was that struggle? And then what did it feel like when you guys came to that conclusion?
I think it was a decade. We were really trying. And the thing is too, is you're in that like 0.1% of the unknown. There's no reason. So then, you go through all those challenges of, is it me? No, is it me? Is it you? Is it me? And it was neither of us. It was, so just the time elapsed. And then, my wife's grandmother, she was getting up there in age. So she moved out here. So we, started taking care of her, and it just it really just kind of faded out. I mean, we talk about it still today, but there wasn't really a defining moment of, nope, that's it. We're going to, stop and we're just going to take care of our family. It just kind of evolved that way
John,
to where we're at now.
There's a lot of people that listen to this podcast that have different experiences, right? Yeah. And there are certainly going to be people listening to this podcast that find themselves in the same situation that you found yourselves in with your wife.
Yes.
What would you say to someone who finds himself in that spot and is struggling in that way?
Absolutely. Well, the first thing is, when you get to a certain point and a certain age, you start to think, well, am I going to be fatherless? She's going to be motherless. So adoption was on our agenda. We went and saw a lawyer, and we were actually going to go through that process. And this was a while ago. And then, I get into the middle of that of no, not yet, God will bless us. And year after year, no, God will bless us with a child, and so that is a big one for me that I've had to really work through, because my wife's on the other end going, come on, dude, we're not having kids. So we're getting older. We need to start thinking about adoption. And I really blew it. That's a real big Goliath in my life that I had to slay, because it was eating me up. But then, you start taking care of family, and then just those things just kind of faded. And I've worked through that. She's worked through that. But that was a big one. That was a huge event to go through.
Yeah. Well, I love that analogy to Goliath, because John, honestly, to Tyler's point, there are a lot of folks that are going through this same situation. Sure. And they're looking at their own marriage, and they may be thinking, how do
we survive this?
This is going to take us down.
Yeah.
So as you now stand on the other side, how did you make it?
Yeah.
How did you and Dee, how did you guys together make it through a decade of that trial?
Yeah. You throw yourself into work. That's one way. It's a distraction, right?
Yeah.
Then, we're involved in a church, so we're praying, and she's struggling and mourning that too. And that was so hard. It was so hard. And, I look back at that, and as I said, I do take kind of responsibility for that. I'm going to have to answer the Lord for that one, because it was fear for me. And fear is a liar. And looking back now, my mid 50s, I look back and go, doggone it. I blew that one. But, here I was a middle school teacher and surrounded by kids. So I was fulfilled in so many different ways. My wife is a nurse, fulfilled, taking care of the babies. So God just put kids into our lives for decades. And so we got filled up that way, and filled up with the family. And instead of a negative, it became really a blessing. It really did. But I would say fear, just let that fear go.
We got to talk about that. You say fear is a liar.
It is.
Talk to me about that. Where does that belief come from, and what do you mean by that?
Right. So fear is, for me, when I think of fear, I think of, okay, there's something that I'm going to have to do that is so far beyond. It could be a comfort zone. It could be something that, I just don't want to do that because I'm probably not good at that. Or like, for example, my first teaching job.
I was just going to say, standing in front of 27 kids. If you're not afraid.
Yeah, you're not afraid. Yeah, exactly.
Probably should be, right?
Yeah, right. So right there, and so you just start picking away at that fear, and even playing guitar in front of someone was a fear for me. And so you step out of your comfort zone. My first gig, talk about a closet guitarist. My first gig was an 8th grade graduation. I got my guitar out there and I played, and that was the first time I ever played in front of anyone.
Oh, wow.
So it's those little baby steps of, you conquer that big Goliath of that fear, and then it just, it strengthens you, and you think, well, you know what, fear just, it keeps people from really advancing, I think. And you get defeated, so easily. And that was me for a long time. Fear of this, negativity. My wife's an optimist, and I don't know what I am anymore. I probably evolved into somewhere in the middle, but it's just interesting how fear plays such a destructive part in our life if we let that really control us. And so I pray through that, like being on the show is a little fearful, and you go to the Lord, and the Lord's like, you're doing it.
It's interesting, John, because I think I like that fear is a liar, because so many times we tell ourselves things that we build walls for ourselves, right? Because we say, well, man, I'm not good enough for that, or this person's better at me than that, and so I can't put myself out there, or whatever it is that we tell ourselves. And then it's like, you do this, play the guitar at the 8th grade graduation, and then there's like that wall is sort of chipped away at, and you think, wait a second, maybe I can do this, right? And I think that there's so much that fear holds us back from. What
reminds me,
fear is the opposite of faith, right? And that's
absolutely
right. Fear does not, right? God does not give us fear, right?
That's right.
That's 2 Timothy. It also reminds me of the movie The Village.
Okay.
Right? Where there's that monster, but it's a fictitious monster, and the whole town is scared.
Yeah.
And like the monsters that we are afraid of, if we really turn and face them, our perception has made them.
Yeah.
Right.
We have perceived them, and those things that we tell ourselves about those fears, like you said, it's all smoke and mirrors.
It really is.
Right?
It is. Yep. And then it robs your rest, and it just spirals from there. It's crazy.
Well, we talked about in the beginning of our conversation together about the struggle, right? And the struggle making us stronger. And I think that I'll just speak from my own experience, but there's times when we can say, I shrank from the opportunity, right? I recoiled rather than push myself out there. Then when you gather your wits and you decide you're going to face something, you realize that, wait a second, I'm capable of a lot more than I thought I was, right? I can overcome things even though it looked like this was impossible at any given time.
It reminds me that there's a quote that I sent to you, just bouncing some thoughts around, Tyler, this morning, was from James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, one of my favorite books, one of my favorite authors. He says, many people delay taking action because they hope to avoid suffering.
They hope,
right? They keep searching for a path that won't involve trade-offs. But some form of suffering is always inevitable. The process of taking action is the process of choosing your pain. Right? Like so many times we're crippled by the choice, or we're crippled by we're running through, we're trying to do the math in our heads, like that trade-off, like which situation is best. And the thing that we all need to realize, the thing that we're all leaking out are seconds and minutes and hours. And when we do overcome that fear, I bet you each and every one of us that has, the very next thought is, I should have done that a lot sooner.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I'm now downstream a couple of years, and I can't get that. I can't get that time back.
Right.
God is amazing. His son, Jesus Christ, is the savior and redeemer of the world, but he can't give you time.
Yeah.
He can make scarlet white. He can't make you a young man again.
Right. You can think it, but
that's right. You can have a young heart. You can be like a kid.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is I'm 45, and that's not changing.
I think too, there's this idea that we have to embrace, right? That as long as we're progressing, right? Like sometimes, I've heard people say, well, it's too late for me, right? Like I've gone too far down this certain path and it's too late for me. And I feel like it's not, right? Whether it's towards the end or at the beginning or in the middle, as long as it's happening.
That's
I feel like, we can overcome a lot of things at any given time. And I think that's one of those things those lies that we tell ourselves, right? It's too late. I can't progress now because I didn't take advantage of it when I was young. Right, and I think that's a limiting belief, right?
Oh, it's horrible. Absolutely. It's deliberate. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, now, John, I want to ask you this question because I can't not ask any longer. I can't wait anymore because you've talked a lot about your wife, and
hold on. I thought you were talking guitar. I thought you were.
Oh, I do want to talk guitar. We'll talk about guitars later, but
we'll pick up music. We'll pick up music later.
Yeah, we'll pick up music later, but it's important, but not as important as deep. So I want to get into that. But can you talk about how you met and what drew you guys together, and can you give us that beginning story of you and Dee?
Oh, absolutely. It's a great story, actually. So let's see. That would be okay. So I was working at
I got to get it right. She's going to listen.
No. I was working at a summer camp. So I was going to school during the year and then working at a kids summer camp. I did that for a few years. So after camp was over, I would return back to college, and I lived in the dorms. Well, I decided that my senior year or my junior, I can't remember, I would live off campus this time. So when I came back from camp, I was trying to find some buddies to room with, and I did eventually find 3 guys. And so I set up there for a year. I didn't have any furniture. I put a sleeping bag on the floor basically. And
the days.
Yeah, exactly. And so, just fresh out of camp, I was the wilderness director. So I was the guy who set up the fixed rope climbs for the kids.
Awesome.
Backpacking. And so that's fresh on my mind. I just got back from camp. So I have all this climbing equipment, and in the tree outside where the house I was renting, I strung up all these ropes in the evening, and I'm hanging upside down on these ropes in the tree out front, and up walks Dee, my wife. I didn't even know, and she was friends with a friend of mine. I didn't even really know the guy that well. So she walks by and looks up, and I'm hanging out of a tree, and she's like, "That is really strange." And that was our first really time we kind of met. I didn't even really talk to her. I may have talked to her one time that year. And anyway, after that one year, I buddied up with another guy, moved out, and we had an apartment this time. And a couple weeks living at this apartment, I found out that Dee, I didn't really know her. She moved in the same apartment. And so I was just curious. So I kind of forced myself to kind of follow her pattern when she got home. And I waited for the right opportunity to take out the trash. So
it's like healthy stocking.
Yeah, it was healthy stocking. Absolutely. So here I am carrying my garbage out at the same time she is. Perfect time to bring up a conversation, right? Garbage. And that was it. We just started talking, and we just became friends for like a few weeks. And one day I was over there. We weren't girlfriend, we're just friends. And she was so easy to talk to. She was the first girl I could actually be so calm around. And just, I thought, this woman is incredible. And so we're talking, and I said, "So what are you doing tonight?" And she said, "I have a date." And I'm like, "A date?" And right away I'm like, "You're dating someone?" I'm not dating her. I'm just her friend, right?
Right.
And that destroyed me that night. So I waited. I went and bought flowers. I put her on her doorstep. I was like, she can't date this guy. I'm interested. And so the guy, I guess, as Dee tells the story, the guy walked her to the door, and then he looked at the flowers. He said, "Oh, okay, I see." And that was the end. I mean, that was it. I mean, we're married. I mean, and it's almost 25 years. And I'm telling you, and I know you gentlemen, you talk about your wives, but my wife is absolutely the most amazing, caring, giving, kind, gracious, forgiving, loyal. I mean, I can attach pages of adjectives that would describe her. And she's just an incredible woman to my family, to her family. She models for me for how to forgive. I mean, you know, those things those lessons that she teaches, those softening the edges. You know, as men, we need those soft edges. And, you know, she's like, call your sisters, you know, and I'm like, oh, they haven't called me. Well, you need to call them, you know, and, you know, it's.
Man, that is great.
So I do have a question. Do you have insight into how she became who she is?
Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah.
Like, I know it's not, she's not the guest yet. We'll get her on here because she sounds like she's somebody that we would learn some things from. But as you know her better than anybody, what things made her who she is?
I think, you know, I don't want to get into details, but she had some struggles too growing up, and those were powerful things that she had to work through. And like the woman she is, she will go head on into those things to make it better, and, you know, not afraid to get in there and if it's hurting, you know, we need to fix this. And so with her dad, that was a huge healing for her.
Well, can I don't want to take us off, but we've talked about struggle. Mm-hmm. And I would just throw this out there. Why is it, guys, that some struggle hardens and breaks people and some struggle sanctifies people?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm dying to know, question. Tyler, if you can answer that.
Well, I can't answer that, but what I can tell you is this, all right? I admire the person that sees the struggle, that sees the pain and runs to it. Like, to me, like, that is courage on another level.
Absolutely.
And so when you talk about Dee facing some things and being willing to dive in, to me, I just think now that is something that is it's something that I'm not good at. So I admire that greatly in a person. Absolutely. And can you talk about Dee's influence on you over the 25 years and what that's looked like as you guys have grown together?
Prayer, you know, my wife is a prayer warrior. So, you know, I'm not the first one to grab your arm and start praying out loud. And it's not that I don't pray, but my wife will pray with anyone. She, as a nurse, she'll pray with patients. She'll pray with anyone. And that modeling has been so huge for me over the years that and it's intimate, and it's an intimate moment. And so prayer, she's really has modeled that for me as a man, and to really, you know, reach out more and uplift people with prayer. And so I think that is just such a super quality about her. Her forgiveness is amazing to me. It is absolutely amazing. It's Psalm 103, really. If you know Psalm 103, that the Lord is compassionate, he's gracious, he's slow to anger, and abounding in love, you know. And that's my wife. That really is my wife. She's compassionate, she gives grace, she receives grace, she's slow to anger. I mean, she doesn't get, I mean, she gets angry, but it's not like, you know, this explosive anger. Yeah. It's very calming, but it's, you know, letting me know this isn't a good thing right now.
You know, what's interesting is I'm listening to this list and I'm writing it all down thinking, all right, I need to do better. I need to do better. I need to do better. I'm writing this list down. But the one thing that you keep talking about, John, is prayer. And I think, like, when I think of fear and I think of a quick remedy for fear, to me, it's prayer. right? If we're willing to lean on the right things that will help us kind of see what the situation really is, that we can be that person that dives in. And so as you're saying all these things, forgiveness and the faith and the love, and I just think her willingness to pray with patience and to grab someone's arm and just pray with them, like, to me, I just think that's like a key component in all of this, right? I mean,
turning into the challenge makes me think of that Ryan Holiday book, right? The Obstacle is the Way. And I just finished reading this book, and one excerpt from it I just want to share out. He says this: the struggle against an obstacle inevitably propels the fighter to a new level of functioning. The extent of the struggle determines the extent of the growth. The obstacle is an advantage, not adversity. The enemy is any perception that prevents us from seeing this.
I love that.
That's powerful.
But I think that attitude coupled with D's quickness to prayer equals success, right? Superheroes. Yeah.
Superhero nurse.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you allow me just to tell a short story about prayer, I mean, talk about my wife modeling that. So, here I am struggling with that, that openness of praying for people. So one day I thought, well, I'm going to just go do this. I'm going to go around Reading, drive around. I'm going to go pray for people that I don't know. Right. So I'm driving around looking for people, the homeless, I'm going to pray for the homeless. I felt called to do that. And I'm scared.
Hold on. You've never done anything like this?
Nothing to this at all. I heard from the Lord. My wife's been showing me for years that she's willing to pray for people she doesn't even know.
Wow. That's like blowing up your comfort zone, John.
I drive into a bank. I find this homeless guy, right? I drive up to him. I'm still in my truck, right? He's on the passenger side outside. I roll my window down and I say, hey, can I pray for you, man? And I'm shaking, I got both hands on the wheel. The car is still in drive. My foot's on the accelerator. Okay. And the guy's like, yeah. And he's clearly broke. He's all, absolutely. He leans in to my window. I grab him with my right arm, right on his shoulder. I don't remember the prayer, but all I remember was as I was praying, the accelerator, well, actually it was in park. The accelerator just kept going a little bit more. It's just revving. By the time I was done with the prayer, this thing it's going, I mean, it's roaring. The smoke's coming out of the tailpipe. I smoked this guy out, and here I am. This was my first attempt at prayer, and it's just kind of a little funny story of stepping out. And I just remember that. And it really kind of helped me do the next step after that. And it was amazing.
Hey, can we go? I don't think so. So Tyler, we're in this 30+ episodes. I don't think we've ever gone to where I'm going to go. We've talked prayer before.
Okay.
Can we just have a candid conversation with how God answers prayers? Let's say somebody is listening to the show and they're like, what is this thing about prayer? Every time I pray, nothing seems to happen. Can we talk to that individual right now? And just Tyler, John, Mike, what does God's answers to prayers feel like?
Let me jump in on this one for a second, because Mike and I had an episode, 5 or 6 ago. We talked about forgiveness, right? We talked about the importance of forgiveness. And I'm sitting here tonight talking.
Still working on that, by the way.
As am I. It's a process, right?
Yeah, I need to talk to D.
Yeah, but here I am we're talking to John, and John's describing D about diving into the things that hurt and taking care of them. So you want to talk about how does God answer prayers? Mm-hmm. John Taylor talking about his wife D, to me, is an answer to a prayer.
Oh, there you go.
Right. So my experience has has almost exclusively been when I'm looking for an answer, that answer comes through other people, right?
Correct. Yeah.
In some way, shape, or form. And think about the experience in the parking lot at the bank, right?
Yeah.
We've got this person who's sitting there broken, right? Probably is in a position that I would imagine I'm prayed out.
I'm prayed out.
I'm prayed out. And
I'm out of options. I've used all of my options.
Truck who says, "Can I pray for you?"
Yeah.
Like, to me, like, I'm sort of blown away by that whole story. Because I think that if you're asking me how is our prayers answered, that is how they're answered.
Oh, that's a great way of looking at it. That's a great way of looking at it. Amen to that. Yeah. Thank you.
You know, you think about that guy, right? Because here's a guy, it's not like John Taylor does this for a living. He's driving around and he's doing this for the first time.
And then he blasts him with the smoke screen, and it's like the Holy Ghost is filling the whole place.
No. The second part of that story is after I'm feeling good about myself.
Yeah.
God's like, now get out of the truck and do it, and walk and find someone. And so guess who he chooses? He picks Charlie Manson. Okay, I mean, this guy was yelling, screaming, cussing, throwing things. I'm like, God, you want me to go up to him? You're going up to him. Dan Kozlowski. I journaled the whole thing. Dan Kozlowski. I hung out with the guy for a week. I hung out for a week. I went out there. I met him, and you know how I met him? How my approach to this guy? I'm like, walking out of my truck, I'm like, Lord, I don't know what I'm going to do. This guy's screaming and yelling at people. Okay, I don't know how I'm going to talk to this guy. And I'm walking towards him. The only thing that came to my mind was Robin Williams. Robin Williams had just committed suicide. And for some reason, I used it. I walked up and I said, did you hear Robin Williams just committed suicide? And the guy went from yelling, he looked at me and he stopped. And he said, are you kidding me? And that was my end. That was my end, to hang out with Dan Kozlowski for a whole week. I hung out with him, with his friends. They were doing drugs on the grass. I was sitting there and I was meeting his friends, but they're like, who is this guy? And I got to share, I was a school teacher, my faith, and it was like an incredible experience. And again, it's
John,
it's just one of those things. It's amazing.
Where do you even pick that up? Tyler, he drops that. He drops that he's now out of his truck and he's walking up to someone who looks like a serial killer, is acting violently, and he's like not knowing. I'm just thinking of the scriptural accounts there of walking into a situation and not knowing beforehand what you're going to do. And that prayer, almost that fourth watch, right? Like, I'm desperate. My back's against the wall. What am I going to do? And Robin Williams.
But the thing is,
he was his favorite comedian.
And then you hang with him for a week.
I would imagine, and I wish we could do this, somehow track down Dan Kozlowski, but I would imagine that experience is one that he can recall as well. And I'm like blown away by that, because
Tyler,
here's the thought I have. Wait. Here's the thought I have. You got to answer. Riddle me this, Mike Freeman, because I have this. I have this thought as John, as you're telling this story. I think of people that I know, or that will tell me about their religious experience, and I love it, and I value it, and I'm grateful for it. But I think, how many people are walking up to some strangers in the park and saying, can I pray? I just don't know. Like, of all the people I know, and granted, I haven't gone deep into everybody's stories, but this is the first time someone's told me this.
Okay, but Tyler,
I'm blown away.
Here's my riddle me this.
Yeah.
I've got Stephen Mitchell in my head, right?
Yeah.
What are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So usually, Tyler, we would debrief after this. We would have John, and John would leave, and we would be like, whoa, that was great. and then we would go about our business. But I'm going to ask you, Tyler, Mike Freeman, like John Taylor is dropping a get out of your comfort zone message right now. And those people that come to me and we talk about faith, everybody is having these faith conversations squarely in their comfort zone.
Well, and those people, like we talk about people coming to us, like I mentioned to Mike in the beginning of, before you got on with us, that the other day I was with my family on a weekend, and I saw a mother and her 2 kids sitting out by the corner asking for help, and we stopped and gave them a little bit of help, but there was a lot more to be done there. And I knew it at the time. I knew it, and I pushed that aside. I did the help that I did, and I moved on.
You say that, right? You say that. I did my part.
Yeah. But I knew when I did it that there was more to be said. In fact, we were driving away, and I told my wife I should have got out of the car and had a conversation with her. And I didn't. But so John and Mike, challenge accepted. All right. I'm gonna do better.
Challenge accepted. Because I love the idea, because here's the tricky part about fear.
Yeah.
Because there is we know God does not give us the spirit of fear.
Right.
But there have been some amazing things that have happened in my life pushing through. I remember a sweaty palmed kid holding a wedding ring in my hand, scared out of my mind.
Right.
That she was going to say no. I was scared she was going to say yes. I didn't know, right? But you push through that. And Tyler, I'm sure I've told you this story, but I was back pre-COVID. I'm at a church and I'm visiting on Sunday, and there's a new member of the church, and she's been asked to share some things with the congregation, and she's sitting next to me, and she is a nervous wreck.
Right.
And I look over at her, and the thought comes to my mind, when was the last time you were that scared?
Yeah.
Right? You're doing this thing like it's old hat, like you've done this before. It was almost like, get that scared. Find that thing that is going to make you be that scared so you can push through and get what's on the other side of it. Yeah, and I think when I'm hearing John right now, that's what I'm hearing. Look around you, Mike. There's lots of opportunities to feel that outside of my comfort zone, and it just expands my comfort zone. In the end,
I think about
fear is a liar.
What seek ye, right? What seek ye? Like who do you seek? And I think that sometimes it's easy to be caught up in the piousness of expressing our religion or our beliefs, and not acting it, right?
We talk abstractly about
right. It's easy to act it within the box, right? But pull ourselves outside of that and saying, let me just pull over and pray for this guy.
Right.
Like, to me, I'm just like, that I love it, man. I absolutely love it.
Because what would he do, right? That babe born in Bethlehem that we celebrate, that we fall at the feet and worship.
Right.
And he's going to say, when I was naked, you clothed me.
Right.
When I was hungry, you fed me. Right? He's going to say that to the folks on the right hand, and he's going to say to the folks on the left hand, you didn't do those things. Right. And so when we talk about seeking him and being like him, it's not in a comfort zone. No. Never, ever, I think I can boldly say this, point to a time in that mortal life where he was comfortable. Yeah.
Where he was comfortable. Yeah.
So he was comfortable. He was at peace. He was at ease because he knew who he was. Right. His circumstances were never, ever comfortable. And point to a time when he asked his disciple to do something comfortable.
Right.
He never said, hey, this thing that I got, super convenient. The timing's perfect.
Yeah.
Right. So John is
you're all rested up.
Yeah, you're
They're not going to throw. They won't throw stones at you. Don't worry about it.
They're going to love what you have to say. Don't worry.
John, I'm shook. Thank you for sharing that, man. I'm shook.
I am too, man.
I don't even know where you go from there, Tyler, but go somewhere.
I don't either. But Mike, I just want to hear you say challenge accepted.
Hey, challenge accepted. And I'm not talking Salvation Army. I'm not talking soup kitchen, brother.
No.
Those are all great causes. Those are all worthy causes.
100%.
But this time of year, that's a pick a number.
Yeah.
There's a line out the door for those causes. We're talking about seriously going to God in prayer saying, hey, help me follow my friend's example and help me do something uncomfortable.
And to take that a step further, the challenge is, what do we do with that information or this newfound knowledge that John has shared with us in March, not in December, right?
Yeah, and when Kelly reaches out to you, Tyler, and says, why did my husband just empty the bank account and get us some for?
Well, wait, don't empty your bank account. Just hold that for a second, all right?
Because I'm like the counsel to the young rich man, right?
No, just pull over.
Tyler. I met with John Taylor on Richest Man in Town, and I sold all that I have.
Just pull over, roast your tires, and say a prayer for someone. That's all we're asking at this point. All right?
Oh, that's great.
Oh man,
I love you guys, man.
Hey, can I share a quick thought that's kind of that kind of takes me a little bit as I listened to John tonight. I got this one phrase in my mind, and John, I don't know what your hymn book looks like at church, but on my hymn book, it's hymn number 97, and it's Lead Kindly Light.
Lead Kindly Light?
Lead Kindly Light. And I just want to read this to you. I'm not going to sing, but I do see some guitars in Tyler's in the background there, so we could do this little thing, but
I have fear to do that, just so you know.
It says, lead kindly light amid the encircling gloom. Lead thou me on. The night is dark and I am far from home. Lead thou me on. Keep thou my feet. I do not ask to see the distant scene. One step enough for me.
One step enough.
I love that.
Wow.
Right?
That is
I don't
beautiful.
need to know what next month looks like.
Yeah. Amen to that.
I don't need to know what 6 months looks like.
Yeah.
Give me right
Right
now.
That's right.
One step enough for me.
Absolutely. Stephen Curtis Chapman, I'm living the last 5 minutes. I play that song all the time. I'm living the last 5 minutes. One day at a time, one step at a time. Good. That's great. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hey,
wow.
John, what's the best life advice anyone's ever given you?
Oh.
I just gotta move this thing forward because I could get lost with Charles Manson.
I
want to talk about that all in the next.
It's the first time I kind of really told that story. I don't even think I told my wife that. I don't know, but no, so life advice. Maybe when I first started off teaching, a wise, mentor teacher maybe told me that as a teacher, you're gonna get some challenging emails, and my suggestion to you is to write 2 of them. When I say challenging email, it's where the ones that just rip your soul, and you don't know what to do with it, and the kids are gone, and you're at the computer. It's 3:30, and you're reading this thing, and you're exhausted, and you've given everything, and you read this thing, and the wise teacher told me, write 2 emails. Do it in a word processor, Pages or whatever you use, Word. Write it there. Write the first one, get it all out, delete it, and then write the second one and cut and paste it. And I have carried that to this day, where if I get challenged by something, I go down pen and pencil, pen and paper, I should say, or word processor, and I get it all out. I'm a journal freak. I have these books. They're all weather books. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
They're waterproof, and I fill them up. I fill them up all the time with prayers and all sorts of things. And I write notes, and I've got bundles of these. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, we do the same thing. I love
write 2, delete 1. The second one has the soft edges, And that's been great advice. I carried over today in my life, and it's saved me a lot of embarrassing situations or writing in the heat of moment, and you can't take it back. I think that's why social media scares me.
Yeah.
And I've not attached myself to it because I fear I might write something and you can't get that back.
Yeah.
And so I've stayed away from, Twitter, 150 words or less. I'm going to say something that, I can't take back. It's already out there, right?
Right.
I can't do two of them, right?
I hope the whole world is listening to you right now, John.
Yeah, because that's.
I hope the whole world is listening.
But I live by your advice. I tell people all the time: you write it, you read it, you delete it, and then you.
No, that's absolutely.
And just move on.
Yeah.
So hey, so you're up in Bandon right now, and you're walking the dog on the beach every day. What is life teaching you right now, John?
Oh gosh. So, that hinge moment where, you're going along, I'm teaching 20 years. You get the call, mom's got cancer, and your life changes, that quickly. And, I'm 9 hours away. So, you pray about it with the wife, and we get the calling to sell everything and move near mom. And so, so we went through that whole process. And, when we moved there, I thought I had 3 to 5 years. She had terminal cancer. She passed away in 4 months. So had I not acted when I did, I wouldn't have had even those 4 months, which I would not trade for the world. I mean, those were precious moments. I was able to rent a house just 7 doors, 7 doors from her in the neighborhood I grew up in. We would have moved in with her, but we had animals and she didn't like the animals. So we had to find a place. So here I am renting a house. We changed our life. Dee's working at the hospital. I'm over every day. Dee's over there after she's home. We're taking care of mom's needs.
So I don't want to make light. I don't want to make light of that, but you sacrificed it all.
Well, she sacrificed my mom. I think of sacrifice in the caregiver and taking care of her mom. Her mom had Alzheimer's for 20 years. She was bedridden for 20 years. She took care of her to her last day. My dad, same thing. Her uncle, I saw her, just the caregiver, and I thought, I need to bless this woman. I need to go there and put on a new roof, paint her house, whatever she needs. I need to be there because, 9 hours away living up there it's a long distance. And I could have done the commute thing, but I'm glad we did what we did. Absolutely wouldn't trade it for the world. So that all, my mom passed away. I'm in charge of the estate. I've been working on that for the last 3 years. We decided to move to Bandon. And so that's where my life is right now, is still working on this complex estate of hers. It was, I can't tell you how involved it was. It was just, there's so many pieces to it that I've had to work on. And that's how my life's changed. It's been great. It's been a blessing. It's a different role for me. Last year, I took on a long-term sub position at a middle school, and it was good to be back in the classroom. It was the third teacher type of thing coming in the mid-year, and it was just so hard. And then COVID hit, and that was it basically. And so here I am, finishing up the last pieces of the estate, and praise God, I think I got these done. I think since doing this interview with you a week ago, the last pieces are actually closing out, and I can put this to bed and move on. So I don't know what's next for me. I just don't know. I know the Lord's going to bless me, and
one step enough for me, right?
Yeah, right.
John, can I ask you? And we don't have to go here if you don't want to, but that experience of moving next to mom and being a caregiver. Were there lessons learned in that time?
Absolutely. Just not just with my mom, but with my sisters as well. I've lived separated for them for a while. So our relationship isn't as close as it could have been. So that time down there, we really bonded, and really worked together as a team to help mom through that whole experience. When you get hospice in there and all those things that you have to take care of that you don't think about, until it happens and you're right there. And one of the most beautiful memories I have is Father Roberto. He was just a beautiful priest. She loved him. She just loved him at the church. And so I asked him one day, I walked up to him and said, would you come and pray for my mom? Would you come over to the house and pray for my mom? And he said, absolutely. And this beautiful moment of my three sisters, my niece, my little niece, my mom, and Father Roberto, we're around my mom, holding her and saying these beautiful prayers. That's amazing to me. I think about that, and what a beautiful moment that was. And she was smiling. I mean, here, Father Roberto is in her room, praying over her, and she just, it's like she didn't have cancer. It's like all of a sudden, it was like she was like well again.
Yeah.
And it was a powerful moment. So I learned so many different lessons of, that getting over the scared part. It's scary. It's so scary to see, your mom in that state. And so you got to be strong for her. And there's so many lessons and that I learned through that whole experience that are just amazing. Absolutely amazing.
What is it going through that experience and actually being reminded of that experience, working with her, with her estate? What thoughts do you have on your own mortality?
Well, that's a good question too, Mike. My own mortality. So as Christians, we're taught to not fear death because we have eternal life. And so, I don't know how many times I can read that and go, I don't fear death. I don't fear death. I fear how I'm going to go out more than I know. I mean, I know where I'm going. I at least I pray to God that I do, that I get in. What George Burns says, I hope I get in on a technicality, or it was Bob. Right. I can't remember who said that, but it's that, how am I, you can't pick how you're going to go out. Am I going to go out like Elijah, or am I, so I guess there's a little bit of fear there. Cancer runs in my family. Alzheimer's, so you're battling that. The men in my family don't live long. My dad was the longest living male, and he lived till he was right at 70 years old. And so, you start thinking a little bit about that, but my own mortality, I hope that when I go, that I'm remembered, that I love my wife, I love God, I love my family, I love my country. I love my job, teaching. It wasn't a job to me. It was a calling. So I lived a rich life. How many men can come to this point in their life and go, what's next? I've lived just a very rich life up to this point. And I can't wait. If God lets me live longer, I can't wait for what's next, I can't wait.
John, can you talk a little bit about what teaching meant to you and what that did for you in your life?
Yeah, incredible. Talk about a hinge moment changing your life. You're going down one path and then you go completely the opposite direction. And it was only changing from a business major in my junior year to education and working as an after-school aide, and the minute I started that, I just knew I had to get into teaching. I was working with kids, and it was just a no-brainer for me. And after that, everything just excelled from there. And they were the most joyous times of my life. I journaled a lot of it. I have cards. I have reminders. I have so many blessings, emails I've saved. They're on my wall from kids, 15, 20 years ago. I found a note. I was just sharing this with my wife. I found a note in a pocket that I hadn't even looked at for years. I pull it out, and it's this apology letter that a student wrote.
Oh, man.
And I was like, wow, is it, it might even be here. Where is it? Right here. Let me just read a line to you.
Yeah.
Dear Mr. Taylor, I am sorry for me and the class being disruptive and mean. We need to stop. It's not okay or nice. We need to we need to use our free time better. I mean, this kid, it was so humbling. And I remember he hand delivered this with his mom, and, I have this letter, it's written, 10 years ago. Those things are just, I just cherish those things.
Because here's the thing, Tyler. John Taylor doesn't teach content. He teaches character through content. And when there's a disturbance in the force, you and I, we all know when we've disappointed someone whose opinion of us matters. And that's the kind of things that we do. And bless his mom, right, for walking him in there. Similar to Cinderella Man, walking that kid into the deli, right? Because
Absolutely.
that's the power of a teacher.
Yeah.
And that's why I love what I do, and I love doing it with John, and I love doing it with John and that staff, because you teach character, because they're not going to be in 7th grade the rest of their life.
Yeah, amen to that. Yeah,
that kid right now is pushing a grocery cart with a family of 3 or 4, and he needs to be a dad, right? He doesn't need to know when who won this war, or what was that treaty, right? It's wonderful if he can, but he needs to learn about responsibility. He needs to learn about struggle, right? He needs to learn about doing the right thing. He needs to learn about honesty. All of those things are what great teachers teach. Sorry, I'm going to get off my soapbox, but.
No. And the guest speakers, I'm sorry, Tyler, the guest speakers, Mike, that you brought, the guest speakers for the kids at the assembly, they were so powerful. Those lessons. And you taught characters.
I still quote some of those things.
Yeah, no, I mean, incredible. The videos you would show before the meetings, Mike. I still have some of the videos that you shared. Yeah. Incredible, and I share them with my students. So it's your leadership.
That's a heart.
I think that what we need to do is have an episode where Mike Freeman, John Taylor, and all of his students come and talk about honoring John Taylor. You know
what, John? And they're around, brother. They're around.
Yeah. Here's the thing, John. Yeah. You share that note, which is, it's touching. The apology. You read it, and as you're reading it, it's like, man, it's funny the things that I almost thinking like I've probably written a note similar to that at some point in time. But a kid writes that,
or you need to. A
kid writes that note because he respects John Taylor. You talk about the emails that are sitting out that you have that have been sent to you. That's not because they just thought, maybe I'll just shoot Mr. Taylor a note. It's because there's this collection of experiences that they had with you that has forged their character, right? And I think that's important. I would love to sit and talk to those kids and hear.
What we need to do is Mike Freeman, John Taylor, Gavin Spencer. We just need to go create a school, Tyler Goold, richest men in town school.
I'd be there.
And we'll have a pool under the basketball court.
Yeah.
I got the key, man.
You want to get even? Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh man.
I love you. I appreciate you sharing that, because I think it's important, that we take inventory of people that have impacted our lives. Tonight you've talked about your mom, you talked about your dad and some of the advice that stays with you, and you've talked about your wife, and the lessons that she's taught you. And it's funny because I sit and you share these memories of these people, and I'm taking notes of things I need to apply in my life that those people have taught you and that you've taught me tonight. And so I'm super grateful for that. I think it's a cool experience that we can get together. We can be in 3 different, I don't know how far apart are we all, right? And we can have these conversations. And I feel like energized and ready to go attack things, I'm super
excited. Tyler, I would be remiss if I didn't just praise the conductor of this life, who puts people in our paths to teach things, right? Because I know John, I'm almost thinking it was more important for me to know John at Mountain View, not necessarily for the work that we did there, so that this would happen.
Yeah, I'm grateful that you knew John at Mountain View. And I've never been to Mountain View, but I feel like I'm glad you knew John at Mountain View, because that led to this moment tonight.
And
you know what I mean?
It's so true. And then you just start, and then you throw that forward, and you're walking around in your own life right now, and you're wondering, who else is there?
Yeah.
Who else is in my path right now that can shake me the way John's experience and his stories are shaking me tonight?
You guys are kind. Thank you. And John, and back at you, both of you as well. You're blessing me tremendously. And I'm trying to take notes and like, okay, where am I at? I don't want to miss anything, Tyler.
I know. It's like, what gives you hope these days?
With COVID and everything, my wife being a nurse, the vaccines coming out, they asked her, if she wanted to take it, she's praying about that, and it's coming soon. So, the vaccine, hope, to get that COVID under control, and that gives me hope. That gives me hope that we're going to be able to beat this. I worry about our country, of course. So I'm praying, for calmness and peace. It's so dark right now. Our country is just really gone so dark, and I don't want to get into the politics of it, but I look for, the horizon, the rainbow, and keep focused on that. Don't get too mixed up in the news or the politics of life. Focus more on what we're doing here. And, I'm the kind of person that was addicted to politics. But I talk about slaying a Goliath. I had slayed that thing, and I slayed that a year ago, even maybe 2 years ago. So that's helped tremendously, because it opens up the personal side. Instead of focusing on what's going on in the world, I can be available to my neighbor, like Ed. He walks by every day. He's almost 70. His wife has been bedridden for 10 years. He's taking care of his wife. He just retired, right? 10 years ago. And his life is taking care of his wife. She can't move. He does everything for her. So he walks by, and if I'm working, I see him, I'm dropping whatever I'm doing. I'm walking out talking to Ed, because Ed needs some love right there. He needs to talk. And so that gives me hope. Just making yourself available, living in this small town has been wonderful for me, because I can connect with so many people. When I go downtown, I meet tons of people, and it just gives me hope in that sense, and just. And
I bet you love is so amazing, and marriage, when it's right, is so amazing. I bet you if you went to Ed, who's caring for his bedridden wife for 10 years, I bet you he loves her more today than he ever has before.
And it's interesting too, John, you talk about the darkness of the world, and I can't help but think about, and then you talk about, I want to share my light, and those two,
through personal connection.
Yeah. I think that how do we, brighten the room? How do we chase the darkness away? Yeah. It's that simple. Walk out the door when I see Ed walking, and I have a conversation with Ed.
But if your brain, if you're limited CPU, right? If your working memory is dedicated to the latest political madness, you're missing that. You're missing Ed walking by.
Right.
Right.
Right. No, and whereas a friend will call and that's all he's talking about is Trump politics and the election. That's all I get. It's like, whoa, stop. What's going on in your life? And they're not even listening. It's just still keep going, you know? And it's like, whoa, dude.
Yeah. It's almost like, you know, sometimes I think that we look for distractions so we don't have to deal with the reality. Right.
Yeah.
And we let the distraction become our reality when, you know, what we need to do is
because the self knows, but you don't want to hear the self.
And I think I appreciate that lesson taught tonight too, John, that just the lesson about Ed, right? I think about, as you said that, I'm thinking like, I need to be more intentional about that. Like when my neighbors are out, just to have conversations.
But to circle back, we've lost some of that and it can be reclaimed.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We talked about growing up in your neighborhood and playing ball in the streets until the sun went down and getting called in for supper. It was supper.
Supper. It was supper then.
It was supper. But we can reclaim that, right? Yeah. We lay here and kind of woe is us, and we're victims, and that those neighborhoods are a thing of the past. You figure it out. Fix it, right? I mean, Tyler, I remember a conversation you and I had talking about leading out, and leading out isn't one single event. Leading out is day to day, walking the walk in the store, talking to people, connecting with people and asking them how they are and getting into not their business, but being mindful of your neighbor.
And don't drain your bank account, Mike. We can do it without draining your bank account, right? So,
hey, I got a question. I got a question to John on that same subject of hope. We know hope is a fickle thing. Yeah. Hope is a fragile thing. To the folks that might be listening to this episode with John, what do you say to the people that are losing it?
Well, I mean, it's simple, but I want to start with never give up, but how far is that going to go to someone who's hurting so badly? And maybe that word may not mean a lot, but reaching out when you're in that dark spot, I found that that's when you need people the most. And if you can attach yourself to one person that you can communicate with, go with that and just keep living, keep practicing, keep giving. Giving maybe is a good way to, I know it's hard right now with COVID, where do you give at, without having, oh no, you can't, we don't need you here. We can't use you here because of COVID or whatever. That's a good question. I would go to God first. I would say, seek the Lord if and try to share my faith in that way. And what's helped me in those dark moments, I guess using my stories to help others. And
maybe that's why they're given to you.
Yeah, Mike, I would say that John is the town crier of hope. I mean, to be honest with you, I feel like, sometimes we want to have these, when we talk about hope or we talk about how do we help someone, we want to have sort of this formula that, hey, if I do A, B, C, and D, then it's going to be okay. They're going to figure that out. Right. But I think as I'm listening to John talk, and I think about talking to Ed when he walks by the house. I think about saying a prayer with the guy in the parking lot with your foot on the accelerator. I think about talking to Dan Kozlowski in the park with his friends. Like, to me, like, that is hope. Like, that's hope.
Yeah, but I'm hearing, John, love you like a brother, but I'm hearing that it maybe wasn't always like that.
No.
And I think, and I think that's that great principle, right? That weak things become strong.
Yeah.
And if we talk about hope is fickle, how do we instill that? John is, in my estimation, John, everything that you're doing is how we instill hope. I mean, I think that sometimes, and Mike and I have talked about this, sometimes we think when someone has a concern or an issue, we want to have this pocket speech that we can go to and say, hey, let me read this to you or recite this and go get him, Tiger, right? When the reality is it's probably a hug.
Robin Williams.
Right? Yeah. It's probably a hug. It's probably I'm thinking about you.
Yeah.
It's probably let me pray for you. It's probably, did you know that Robin Williams passed away? Right? To me, like that's the recipe. And I'm grateful for the reminder and the lesson tonight about that.
And the listening, to hear Dan's story before he was homeless, just to listen to that, I think that gives people hope. If you just are able to really lean in and listen and care and really care. And so amen to that. That's a good question. That's really good.
John, I'm going to leave the scripture a little bit. You mentioned Psalm 103. Do you have any other favorite scriptures that
Jeremiah 1. I didn't have to think too hard on that one. My favorite verse. I have a shirt. It's that verse where it says, God knew you. God formed you. He knew you before you were in your mother's womb. He consecrated you to be a prophet unto the nations. Think about it. He formed you long before, I was born in 1964. I was already in his plan long before that. He formed me way before I was in my mom's womb. That blows my mind. I think about it constantly. Jeremiah, right there, Jeremiah 1:3, I think it is.
And he knew you.
Passage.
He loved you.
Yeah.
He's mindful of every detail of your life, every step of the way.
Every step. He knows me inside and out. My wife knows me, but I think God just, and maybe more, it's incredible. But 103 is great. That grace, forgive, gracious. And then that fourth thing, slow to anger. And, you don't want to hear God gets angry. Oh yeah, he does, but he's slow to it. So it's a wonderful Psalm that I kind of meditate on too. And so, Jeremiah is great. What about you guys? What it attaches to you?
Oh man, Caleb in the Old Testament, he's got a line. It's in Joshua maybe, and he says, "Give me this mountain." I love the idea. You talk about obstacle is the way.
Yeah.
Right. Here's Caleb who gave an honest and faithful record, gave an honest and faithful account, and has been robbed of blessings his whole 40 years. And Moses comes to him and says, "Are you ready?" And he's like, "I've been ready. I'm as strong now as I was then. Give me this mountain."
Wow, that's powerful. That's a good one.
Well, I think if we're talking the struggle, right? I'll go for 1 Peter 4:12. Beloved, think it not strange the fiery trial which is about to fall upon you, right? As though some strange thing happened to you. Yeah. Right? Yeah. He knows what's coming. Right. And if we partake and we're faithful through it, we will be blessed. And
you'll be blessed. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good one too.
Wow. I hope on my tombstone it says, the list is getting pretty long, right? But it'll say Mike Freeman, worth the wait.
Worth the wait.
And because I'm always.
I thought we were sick of hearing that, man. Oh, geez. Worth the wait.
I would love for it to say the grateful leper. Right? Out of the 10, to be the one to never, ever forget. Right? To never forget what he has done for me.
Yeah.
And to live my life accordingly. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
John, tonight you've taken us in a lot of different places, and we've probably jumped in and steered you in some different places. And
loved it.
I want to give you an opportunity. Is there anything that you feel important to say on this podcast tonight that we haven't talked about?
Wow, I just I thank you for the opportunity for me to share who I am, and to give me that platform is amazing. And I truly hope that in some small way that I bless someone out there, and with my stories, with my life. It is a wonderful life. It's a rich life. It's so many things that it's an abundance. It's almost to the point where it's like, wow, do I really deserve all this? You know, it's
No.
no, I don't. And so I have to really keep that in check.
Yeah.
That humbleness, that humility, that, you know, and I know who I am, and I know who I am in Christ. So, you know, that just, my walk is never finished, and striving to be better. You know, I go through these phases of, you know, I'll be in the scripture for, you know, for a season. And right now it's my guitar. Right now, instead of praying, I'm using my guitar and singing my prayers.
I love it.
And wow, has that been powerful. Especially with the Christmas season and singing Hark the Herald Angels and all these wonderful songs, and they just fill you up. And so my shout out is find what just moves you and you know, and Lord, and go with it. And, you know, I'll sit in my room for hours and be playing and singing, and it's 2 hours later, and I was in a meditation and a trance of just loving on the Lord and letting him go through my spirit. So that's a powerful thing.
I absolutely love it.
Favorite Christmas hymn, Tyler Gould? Okay, while you think about it, I'm going to go to mine.
Okay, go for it.
Man.
I know where you're going.
Huh?
I think go ahead. I think I know where you're going to go, but you go ahead.
We're at a scary level in our relationship.
I know. It's kind of creepy, man. But go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
So mine, without a doubt, hymn number 214 in the LDS hymn book, I Heard the Bells on Christmas Day.
I knew it. Yeah.
Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, writing during the war, during the Civil War. I'm just going to read verse 3 and verse 4. And in despair, I bowed my head. There is no peace on earth, I said, for hate is strong and mocks the song of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Verse 4. Oh, man.
Wow. Whoa.
Verse 4. Then pealed the bells more loud and deep. God is not dead, nor doth he sleep. The wrong shall fail, the right prevail, with peace on earth, goodwill to men.
Right on.
Whew.
Wow.
I love that. Yeah. We didn't even talk music, brother. Tyler Gould, what you got?
That'll be part two.
What you got?
Yeah. You know, I mean, I love Christmas. Like I love the Christmas season.
Sure.
You know, there's a song that Elvis,
I haven't seen Prancer yet, just so you know.
my gosh, it's
Yes.
I'm working on it.
Yeah, you gotta watch it, dude. It's amazing. I cry in that movie, but I think I'm at this weird age where I cry at every movie. I don't know what's going on.
I hear you.
But I love everything about Christmas. There's a song that Elvis's Christmas album, and it says if every day could be just like Christmas. It's one of my favorite Elvis Christmas songs on his album. But I'll go with the basic, simple "Away in a Manger." Thinking about that moment. Yeah. To me is the essence of Christmas. And I love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about you, John? What's your favorite? So
many. Silent Night, of course, is just it has to be sung every year.
Yeah.
It's just it just puts me in that Christmas heaven, that the words and everything. So I think Silent Night will always be that special one for me. God Rest Ye Gentle Merry Men is another one. I mean, it's I attempted last year to write my own Christmas song, but still working on it, but it's my first. So I've written like 3 verses to it and a bridge, but
when you get to the point, John, you got to share that with us. We won't broadcast it, all right? But you got to share it with us, man.
It's not like an 8th grade graduation or anything.
No.
It's just Mike and I. It's intimate, man.
Oh, I haven't even shared that one with my wife. She hasn't even heard that
with
one.
D first, and then you can.
Yeah, no. Oh, and we have so much fun with the happy birthday stuff. We call people, and I get on my guitar and we sing happy birthday to people. So what a joy to give that. And this Christmas season will be the same. So
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, hey, John, we end every podcast with the same way for everybody. And I feel like we've spent a couple hours. It's been like a master class on what it means to be a rich man. But what does it mean to you to be the richest man in town?
Again, there's so many things, that my life in some small way blessed others is such a rich thing for me to attach to, that I love my parents. I honor them, love my sisters, my family. When there's issues that are challenging, never give up on that. Never give up. That you become richer that way. Getting out of your comfort zone, being a school teacher, being blessed as a teacher all those years. Amazing. Again, my wife, come back to my wife. I'm living a really filled life, and I'm not saying there aren't challenges on the way, but boy, it's an abundance. And I'm just a blessed man. I can't say any more than that, than what I'm saying. I mean, I can just keep adding to it, but I just feel like I'm just adding stuff in there. But it's all true. I'm living an extremely rich life right now, and I'll see what happens, tomorrow or in the next 5 minutes.
It's funny, you say that you said at the beginning of that if your life could make just a small difference in for someone else. Yeah. And I think I can't help but think, as you were saying that, I was thinking about George Bailey, right? In It's a Wonderful Life, and what he thought was meaningless, and then in review, all of the people whose lives had been blessed because of his small interactions. Mm. And as we talk today, I just think of all of those people that have had the blessing of having a small interaction with John Taylor. Oh. I would include myself on that list, and I'm just grateful for your time, John.
Thank you.
You've been great, man. You killed it tonight. It's been a ton of fun, and I'm just grateful to have met you for sure.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure too, and again, thank you for letting me share this amazing time and space with you guys and your audience. And
John, your life is a class, and it's funny that Tyler is thinking about George, because I'm thinking about George. I'm thinking about George at the end when he's realized it. Mm-hmm. And he's on the bridge, and those white cornflake snows, whatever the crop was to make it snow, is falling all around him, and he's on that bridge, and he just offers that simple prayer: I want to live again.
I want to live again. Yeah.
I want to live again.
Yeah.
And when I hear your story, and I think of the time that we spent and the lessons you taught, I want to take on tomorrow.
Amen.
And I want to live again, and I want to look around, and I want to be awake. And I want to live like you, man. And we talk about lower lights. We talk about, and I mean that in all sincerity. I'm not putting you on a pedestal. I don't put any of our guests on the pedestal. I think I'm out of the pedestal business.
I think you are.
Right? Yeah. We've all learned the danger there. I just know that if I follow guys like John Taylor, I'm going to be okay. And I'm going to be in that path where maybe I too might be of influence. And I got to tell you, John, I won't drop names, but one of the people that could be the president of our Richest Men in Town fan club is a former Mountain View student.
Oh, you kidding?
And he is going to love when John Taylor's episode drops.
Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, that is great. You just
and you would think, hey, you would think that we're talking all to old people. We've got them all shapes, all sizes, men, women, young, old. My mother-in-law is actually probably the president of our fan club. She's anxiously awaiting every Monday at 6 o'clock for the episode to drop. She's gonna love you. But let me tell you, there's some former Mountain View Panthers that are gonna love getting to see this side of Mr. Taylor.
Oh man, you just that just touched me.
It's gonna be
great.
That
touched me. I'm gonna have to go off camera for a second here.
Well, John, your legacy is long and your legacy is lasting, and what a night, man! I just really can't say enough how much I've enjoyed it, and I it's funny, we've known each other for about 2 hours and 15 minutes, and I would call John Taylor a friend of mine for sure. So
ditto. You guys are great.
And the beautiful thing about this is, Tyler, I get points. Your perception of me now goes up because I knew John Taylor.
Or does my perception of John Taylor go down because he knows my Freeman? I don't know what's going on. Right?
You guys are amazing. You guys are absolutely amazing men of God.
John, I knew we were onto something last night. I always know it's going to be a great show when in the pre-show, I don't want to hang up and I want to just press record, right?
That's right.
And this is going to be kind of a joke because every Thursday we record, I hang up and I go into my living room and I'm like, wow. And Kelly's like, how was the podcast? I'm like, best one ever. Like, it was ridiculous. But it just is really going to be hard to beat the lessons and the nuggets you shared with us. But hey, it's only good. Those notes on paper, John or Tyler, they don't serve us anything, right? Hey, we changed by acting.
Challenge accepted tonight.
Challenge accepted.
I want to hear about it too.
You will. You will, because unfortunately we accept all kinds of challenges and then we put a mic in our face every week. So we have to talk about it.
Accountability is a bear every once in a while, but
Hey, can I say one last thing? I just had this thought as I'm listening to John, and it's kind of been a little bit of an aha because I too love Christmas. I love Ebenezer Scrooge waking up Christmas morning. To me, that is the spirit of Christmas, that new creature, that change, that appreciation for life.
Right.
But I've realized that I may be cheating myself expecting that kind of change when slow, subtle improvements day by day by day. I may be thinking I'm not like Scrooge, therefore I'm not changing. No. And John, just listening to you, that's a lie.
Yeah, that is.
Right. And I think that that's important, that we just take every day and take advantage of the opportunities that are there. Right. And we will swing and miss.
Yeah.
And we will let some go right by.
Right.
We repent joyfully. And we come back at it again tomorrow, trying to just be better, stronger together.
Amen to that. Good words. Absolutely.
All right. Hey,
Casey at bat, right? Sometimes strike out. Right. Remember that poem, Casey at bat?
Yeah.
I think it's Casey at the bat.
Casey at the bat.
You got to swing.
Make sure that you tell Dee, give her our thanks and our gratitude for sacrificing time tonight. Yeah. I know that is a sacrifice, and we appreciate you doing that, but we certainly appreciate Dee's willingness to give up some time with John tonight. So
I will do that. Thank you, and God bless you guys. And again, thank you so much for this time. It's wonderful. Merry Christmas
Merry Christmas, John Taylor. We're coming back and talking music someday. All right?
Yeah,
absolutely. Got it. I want to know what kind of guitars you have behind you.
All right, we'll break it down on the next one, man.
There you go. Yeah.
All right, John. Merry Christmas, my friend.
Merry Christmas, John Taylor.
Guys, thank you again.
All right, good night.
Bye-bye. Okay, bye-bye.
Good idea, Ernie. A toast to my big brother George, the richest man in town.